2025, to which we have lately said goodbye, has the distinction of being a so-called square number. Accordingly, at the start of that year, my partner Ruthie and I acquired 2025 1-inch cubes, blank dice if you will, which for a while lay on our music room carpet in a suitably 4-square commemorative array of 45 rows and 45 columns, as shown. Of course, it's not particularly unusual to have lived in a square year, and there are people alive today, the actor Ursula Andress, for example, who have already survived 2 such years. A child born last year will need to reach only its 92nd birthday in order to have matched Ursula's feat. In former times, the square years were not as far apart as they are now, but human lifespan was also shorter. The composer Telemann was probably quite unusual to have been breathing in both 1681 and 1764. Admittedly, he was almost certainly too busy to have registered this achievement. The same might be said of Jesus, though his brief lifespan was veritably crowded with such numbers. If, as seems likely, he was born in 4 BC, he must have lived in no fewer than 7 square years, the last being AD 25. But for all this arithmetical richness, Jesus will have experienced just one number that was both a square and the sum of 2 consecutive cubes. This was 9 AD, which is 3 times 3 and also 1 cubed plus 2 cubed. Such is the rarity of these squares that are sums of consecutive cubes, that the first millennium contained only 6, and the second, by my reckoning, just 1, namely 1296, which Edward I spent bashing up my Scottish forebears. Which brings us back to 2025, the sole such specimen from our present millennium. Our friend Paul Starling expresses its virtues neatly, being the square of the triangular number 45, which is the sum of the integers from 1 to 9 inclusive. 2025 is the sum of the cubes of these integers. He also comments on the additional possibilities that this offers to what he calls deranged builders at New Year. So, Ruthie and I reverted to the blank dice aforementioned, planning to reform them into a white skyscraper, 9 by 9 by 9 at the bottom, 8 by 8 by 8 on the first floor, and so on, timing it so that the single cube of its top story would be added in the dying seconds of 2025. And what better way to see in the less numerically exotic 2026 than by dashing the 2025 tower to the ground? Such was our plan. This short film shows what went wrong.
The problem, in a nutshell, was that our cubes seemed to be slight seconds. Paul's micrometer highlighted discrepancies which, cumulatively, had caused freestanding prototypes to tumble to the ground. Hence, our specially prepared wooden corner, which the growing skyscraper nestles into. But will things hold together at the end, when we remove the baffles to let it stand alone? As we started filling in the 4th story, all seemed to be going well, yet the supply of cubes was clearly dwindling fast. Eagle-eyed viewers may have already spotted the ludicrous flaw that we, in our excitement, were overlooking. We found it necessary to cut open fresh packs of virgin cubes, even though we knew we'd had the proper number, 45 by 45, back when the flat square had lain out on this very spot. And at last we realized that our ground floor, which should have been 9 cubes wide and 9 deep, was maddeningly 9 by 10. So that meant 90 cubes had to be carefully ousted and redisposed. A similarly disruptive procedure followed for each completed layer. Against the clock now, we were unpicking with one hand and extending with the other. Mercifully, the towering structure offered no cause for concern as we completed the 8th layer. All too soon it was time to mark the final cube with its number, 2025, and place it, with due caution, on the very stroke of midnight. The sense of triumph was palpable for several seconds, until we gently shifted the wooden corner away, scarcely even a millimeter. Abruptly, we found ourselves in a catastrophic tarot reading where the falling tower card turns up 3 times in a row. A dismal outcome apart from the noise, which was absolutely terrific. So much then for our putative skyscraper and our hubris, but we don't want to be bad workers and blame our cubes. Maybe right-thinking folks, if any are still with us, would agree that it's better to have built, and built in vain, than never to have built at all.